kick this puppy in second gear. Yay! Okay, always wanted to try that. Welcome back to another video. Now, in my opinion, I think one of the most important parts on a project car is the exhaust. So in today's video, we're going to get started on the craziest exhaust setup I've ever had. The idea I have might even be crazier than the insanely loud side exit exhaust I built for the off-road AU Falcon. Extremely obnoxious, but I do enjoy every second of it. And then we have the M104 turbo RiceCar Benz. Well, doesn't have a turbo anymore. It has donated its small GT35 turbo for the new project, which we'll get to in a second. But just before I blew this thing up, we blew another head gasket, but I redid the exhaust and I am extremely happy with how it sounds. So the only car that really needs an exhaust now is the new project car, the Mazda FE3 turbo power W203. Every time I see this thing, it just puts the biggest smile on my face. But okay, as you can see, we have the turbo manifold on there with the turbo, and I just got the downpipe on there to do some measurements. But we had a couple of options to choose from. So number one, a hood exit exhaust. Now, who doesn't love a hood exit exhaust? But unfortunately, my babies need to sleep outside, and I think with the rain, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Another option we had was to do another side exit exhaust, which would be pretty cool. But to be completely honest, ever since this whole project started, I knew that the exhaust is gonna come out right over here. Now at this stage, I have no idea how I'm gonna do this, and yes, it's gonna be a lot of work to build a full system for the Mazda Benz, but I think it's definitely gonna be well worth it. So I already have this plate cut out that'll cover up that hole, but before I put that on there, we'll need to cut out some of this, and we might need to make a few changes on that downpipe, and then we'll get started. I think we'll get started in the front and work our way back, but I will need to know where the exhaust box is going to be. So this is the exhaust box we have. I just cleaned it up a bit. I do want to clean it up some more, and then I'll cut the tip off and change the angle a little bit. Like I said, I'm still figuring this out, but I think first things first, we'll need to jack up the car and then have a look underneath of where the exhaust is going to run, because with the W203, the exhaust side is actually on this side, and now we have it on that side. So I just want to make sure there is space underneath. If there's no space, I don't know what I'm going to do, but let's jack up the car and get started. Looking under the car, over here we have the downpipe, and I'm gonna be reusing the flange of the side exit exhaust. So the first thing I say is I'm gonna have to make the downpipe a bit shorter to get this distance less, because it's just gonna be like almost on the ground if I leave it like this. So shorten that up, angle it a little bit different, and that will be the start of things. So looking at it from this side, we have the downpipe, and this turn I'm a bit worried about. I want to make it as close to the firewall as possible. And then looking back, there's no real special place for the exhaust. So the exhaust used to run on this side, and now it's going to be running on that side, but the two sides look exactly the same, so that won't be an issue. I'll just make sure to get it nice up and close to the belly of the car. And then moving back, I think I'm gonna get the prop shaft or the center bearing and the piece that goes to the diff back in there, just to make sure I'm not in the way of the exhaust or anything like that. The exhaust will be running over here, and then we'll go through that little hoop and run it next to the differential and down through there. Okay, so now I'm looking from the back of the car to the front. It's just a bit difficult to explain and film down here, but we're going to be running through there next to the diff, and then we'll go up and into the trunk. And after all that, we'll end up with the exhaust silencer sitting over here inside the trunk, which I think is pretty freaking awesome. Probably gonna be around here somewhere. Lots to do, lots to figure out. Let's get started. Now, getting up to this point took longer than expected and much longer than it should have. But this is where we are at the moment. So we have from the downpipe going next to the gearbox, we have a little gearbox mount over there, and we have the little flex hose over there, and going back to the differential. Not perfect, but I think that'll do. And if you look from the side, it's nice and close to the bottom of the car, so I'm sure we won't have any clearance issues with that. Now comes the exciting part, but can we just take a moment to appreciate a good looking bum? Anyway, I'm not too worried about how things look underneath the car, but I do want to spend some more time getting this as perfect as I possibly can. I mean, I'm just doing the best with what I have. As you can see, that's about how far we got with the exhaust, and now it's time to figure out where the silencer is going to go. And one thing I'm a bit worried about is when you close up the trunk, because the silencer is going to be mounted solid, I don't know if this whole situation is going to work. I have my doubts, but the only way to know is to get started. So I'll have to cut some of this out. So we'll get started with that, and then that plate needs to get a hole in the middle for the exhaust to stick through. So I guess let's just get started and figure this out. And that's about where I stopped filming. It's very windy today, so I hope you guys can hear me. But next up was figuring out how I'm going to mount this thing for the trunk to still be able to open and close like so. I really had to put some thought into this one because with the engine and the exhaust, everything kind of wants to move around because of the rotational forces of the engine and so forth. But I'm hoping with the flex hose I put in the middle of the car, it's going to absorb most of the vibration and movement between the engine and the back of the car. I still have no idea if this is going to work or the exhaust is just going to fall off, but basically here is what I created. I will say this whole idea looked a lot better in my head, but I'm sure it'll still grow on me just like the front end did. I'm very happy about the front end. So we will still build a wing off of this plate in the near future, but unfortunately I ran out of argon gas and I couldn't even finish the exhaust. And without argon gas, that welder is basically useless. So yeah, I need to figure out where I'm going to get some gas. But for now, I guess that's about how far I'm going to get for this week's video. I do apologize for not posting last week, but this has been keeping me busy. And yeah, just a couple of other things. But I guess we'll continue in next week's video. So come back and then we'll see what we can get up to. Thank you guys so much for watching, and then I'll see you next week.